Welcome to another episode of Eat, Chit, and Dice, a fortnightly podcast about board games and sometimes food. I'm Jared, and Jondi's here too. Say hi, Jondi.
Hi, Jondi.
Today we're talking about Will Smith's 1999 classic, Wild Wild West.
Wiki, wiki, wow, wow, West.
Okay, so Jondi and I did not watch the movie before this episode of the podcast. I feel like it was a missed opportunity.
Or was it?
So here's what I know about Will Smith's 1999 classic.
I haven't seen
Wild
it in a
Wild
long
West.
time. I've seen it before.
Despite what I tell people and what lots of people believe, there's the giant robot fight, the spider robot.
Big spider robot, yeah.
The bad guy that's in a wheelchair does not get spider legs.
Right, because I honestly, because I've seen the movie and I thought I remembered spider legs, but you are absolutely right.
He does not get the spider legs.
Get spider legs.
His wheelchair does not have spider legs.
It does not. And in my head, I picture that like so perfectly. But you are right. It does not.
The movie Wild Wild West is based off an old TV show.
We're not really doing a movie like a
We're not?
No. So I don't think it matters really about the movie. We just
Okay, fine. We're talking about some Wild West games. Is that better?
yes.
Is that more
Yes.
accurate?
I think it is more. It's just we have trouble saying Wild Wild West without going Wild Wild West.
I mean, I don't have that. I don't have that problem. That particular problem.
The song pops into my head every time we say the term Wild Wild West. But let's just jump right in there.
Okay. Let's do that.
Yes. We can start out by talking about End of the Trail. That is from Elf Creek Games. And it's a really, really simple game. I would call it an entry-level game as far as like if you're like going to be wanting to teach a new game to people that aren't board gamers. This is a good one for that. It's really easy. It's a very simple mechanics. There's nothing like difficult to a turn. So yeah, but I think it's a pretty cool game. Basically, there's a grid tile that's out, and you are trying to like claim different prospects, I guess. Is that kind of?
So it's the California Gold Rush.
Yeah, and
so you're staking your claim. You're a gold prospector.
yeah, it's
which I
a
guess is
press your
not
luck
exactly Wild West.
game. It's in that,
But it's close
vein,
enough.
though.
It's close enough that there were some other games that we looked at for this episode, and
We decided they fit better
we
in
didn't
some
want to
other
play them.
upcoming episodes. But so it's a press your luck game. You go to a prospect based on whether like how far you're allowed to go in that turn, and you're going to look at it, and it'll have a number on it. You can either decide that you want to claim that one, or you decide that you want to try to get a higher number. But if you flip over a different tile and it's equal to the one you had or lower, you have to stick with the one that's equal to or lower. So it's kind of a press your luck.
That's your press your luck part.
Yeah. There's also some poker in it. So each turn that you play, you're going to be playing a card out of your hand. And the cards that you actually play, you're going to keep to try to build the best possible poker hand at the end of the game.
Yeah, so sometimes you might play a card in hoping, oh, I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to look at that tile, and then this card will trigger, and I can move to another tile. And you end up screwing yourself over a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But if
you're
you've played a good set of cards to go into this poker hand, then
yeah, like honestly,
maybe that's better. It's a good trade-off.
You really want to balance out, like when you're selecting what cards you're going to use in your turn, you also really want to think about the poker hand that you're building. So you might play a card that isn't as helpful in your turn, but it's going to help you build like an awesome poker hand. So it's really that choice is a little bit of a balancing act, basically. So, I mean, there's really not a lot to the game. There's a little bit of memory. The BGG says
because you got to remember what
numbers they are. The BGG says auction and bidding, but I don't really feel like there's auction.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I kind of disagree with that one, but it does have a modular board. It is a press your luck. Set collection-ish, if you want to say, the poker hand that you're building is slightly in that vein, but it's basically just a press your luck game, and I like it. It's not going to be the top of my list of more games to play. Like I'm not going to go, oh, let's play, but it's a fun game, and I believe Jared and I both have the Kickstarter edition that has like extra meeples and.
No, I don't have all those extra parts.
Well, I've got extra meeples and like a cloth board that you can put your grid on. And so the one thing I find that I like aesthetically about the game is something that's basically superfluous. But usually I don't like box sleeves because I'm basically going to open the game and I'm going to throw the box sleeve out. The box sleeve for this, however, just has a really fun, stupid design. It comes with wagon wheels that you then attach to the box sleeve when you open the game, and the wagon wheels actually turn, and they're on both sides of the box.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't do anything.
No, it does nothing. It's still just a box sleeve, and I think if you play the game a whole bunch, or depending on how you store it, eventually those wagon wheels are probably gonna fall off. But I think it's fun. It's a really neat design choice that they made there.
And I do. I think I like it more than Jondi likes it, but maybe that's just me. I do appreciate that there are some components that are not strictly necessary. I think they had extra room on the punch board, and they were like, well, it's going to cost us X amount of dollars for this size cardboard anyway, so whatever.
So there's some meeples that you don't absolutely need if you have the meeple set, but they're so adorable. There's like a little cow and
it's not a cow. There's oxen, a mule,
and a wagon.
And a horse, and then the covered wagons.
Yeah.
Because the main mechanic here of how you can move is based on
whether or not you play an oxen.
How far up you can go up the mountains, I guess, or how far.
Or far out.
So like if you have the oxen, you can go to the first 2 rows. If you have the mule, well, the mule can go a little bit farther down the trail. So he can go to the 3rd. And if you've played the horse, you can go to the 4th. So
there's only 3.
No, there's 4.
I'm looking at a layout right now.
Are you sure you're looking at a 3? Are you looking at a 3-player layout?
Oh, I might.
And you're looking at it sideways because
Yes, you're right. It's 3 across. It's
there's always 4 up.
Yeah.
But if you're playing with like 2 players, you'll do 2 columns. If you're playing with 4 players, you'll put out 4 columns.
Correct. And it's I also the little the meeples that you play with are all screen printed. If you have the meeple set, and I'm a sucker for fun meeples, and I like the fact that they're screen printed instead of putting stickers on them. So,
that's Jondi, at one point, and we'll have to redo it at some point. I made a video for this, but it was during the time that our website wasn't syncing YouTube videos correctly.
Aha.
So, don't go looking for that because it's gone. But maybe one day we'll redo it. I bet they'd like that.
Yeah, maybe.
I think we talked about this when it was on Kickstarter. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. We might have. I'm glad I have it, and I would definitely play it again.
So you have the deluxe edition.
I do, yes.
So you have like actual little pieces. They're not real gold, but
like little nuggets.
Little gold nuggets.
Little gold nugs.
Yeah, which they don't add anything to the game, but it's a nice. They're hefty.
They're nice components.
And
it comes
you have
with
a poker chip too, right?
Yeah, I have a poker chip for the first player token. It has like a little metal like prospector's bowl to keep the gold in. It's got like a canvas.
Oh yeah, you have the map.
I have the canvas map.
Yeah.
And then all the little meeples, the screen printed meeples.
And I know that we talked about how it uses poker as a sort of large component of the game. If you don't know how poker hands work, don't worry. There's cheat cards.
Yeah. There's a list.
Yes.
So.
Yes, there's a little card, the reference card, that tells you
how to build a
poker.
And it tells you which kind of hand beats what. So.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't know how to play poker. You can learn by playing this game, sort of. So, yeah. I would suggest that if you're looking for a press your luck game and you like the theme idea, definitely give this one a try.
Although I can't recommend putting the wagon wheels actually on. I mean, Jondi did it with hers, but
they won't stay, like, depending on how you store them. But I do think that it was a fun little design choice that you just don't see very often.
And I really think it's because they had extra. They were like, well, we've already paid for this punch board. No?
No, because the guys were telling me that they just thought it would be really fun. Because, like, the owner of the company actually was saying that he does not like box sleeves either. They came up with this idea specifically for the game and went to their factory and said, is this something that we can even do? And the factory was like, yeah, we can do this. So it was a specific choice that they wanted to make, was the story I was told.
Well, it's an interesting choice. I mean, I love the idea of it.
It's neat. I mean, it's
But
still
they
just a box.
absolutely going to break.
Oh yeah, and it's still just a box sleeve. So
Well, cool. And that is Into the Trail. You should be able to get a copy of this fairly easily.
Yeah. I don't know if they're in general distribution, but if they're not, they have a website that I'm pretty sure you can purchase from, and they go to a lot of conventions and a lot of the regional shows that you'll see them at. So,
yep. So check it out. Moving on to Montana, which also has a box sleeve.
yes, it does. Montana is from White Goblin Games. Actually, originally, it's here in the States. It's from Big Kid Games.
Yes.
And Montana I liked it a lot. It's a set collection worker placement game.
Yeah. Yep.
And Jared, do you want to tell about it a little bit?
It has a spinner, one of my least favorite components in any games.
Yeah, and spinners always don't work the way you want them to.
But the spinner it's not for moving. It's for collecting workers. Because you do have a worker that's your color, but it's only used for one specific thing. But the color of the workers actually match the resources. So if you want to, let's say, get some miners to go get some mining done, what are those? The black meeples?
Think so.
Because they're like coal.
Yep.
Or stone. I don't know. And if you want some clay, I believe it's clay. You got these little, they're like red. They're like a reddish brown.
Yeah.
You want some corn or wheat? I think it was wheat. You got to
grain.
send
It's grain. Whatever.
You got to send
I don't
the
know if
yellow
that's what they call it,
meeples.
but it's a grain.
If you want pumpkins, oh boy. Send the orange ones. Can you believe it?
Right.
And then there's this like auction-y thing that you can actually do with a meeple of your color. But most of what
the
you're
auction
doing,
thing, I took advantage of that, and it was
you
very
did that.
helpful.
I never did.
Jared
auction.
never took advantage of it, but I did, and I found it to be very helpful.
Most of what you're doing is collecting resources so that you can expand your settlement to claim tiles. Mm-hmm. And as you claim tiles, you're
trying to be the first person to use all of your tiles from your supply.
your pool of them.
Yeah, and the first person to use all of them wins the game. But you can't just claim an area until you have the right resources to claim. Like there'll be like an area where you need 2 red guys and 1, I don't know, the yellow guy or whatever.
So there's. I guess we should actually look at what these resources are called, huh? If we're gonna this is. Ugh. Well, you know what? It's not listed here.
It's not. But so like some of them will like some of them will require like 3 stone, or one of them will require 1 pumpkin and 2 stone, or 2 stones and a sheep. So you have to collect those resources in order to claim hexagons on the board with your tiles. So and the board is modular. So it's going to be different every time you set it up as far as what types of settlement claims are where.
So there are grain, pumpkins, copper, and stone. And the copper and stone has larger versions that you can upgrade to, and you have to do that for some of them. Some tiles require a large
and they
tile.
aren't, and it's not like just the bigger one is 5 of the smaller ones. They're completely different resources. So
what you're doing is based on the number of players you have, you build your landscape, and then you expand from the starting tile. And yes, as Jondi was saying, you have to trade in those resources to build a settlement there. And thematically, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, because
I feel like you're trading for the land ownership.
Okay, so I'm giving you 2 pumpkins, and now I own this land.
Well, maybe 2 bushels of pumpkins.
2 bushels of pumpkins for all this land?
I mean, land wasn't as
Aurora
expensive.
Borealis, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within this hexagon.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so thematically on White Goblin Games' website, it says the number of settlements is growing and the demand for goods is rising.
Okay.
So you're trying to recruit workers to deliver goods to those settlements on time. So if you're not buying the property, you're delivering goods to that settlement, and I guess then you get to
Okay,
claim
so
it or whatever.
you have nothing to do with the landowner part of this.
Nope, you are. It says halfway through the 19th century, the first permanent settlements appear in Montana. After this, many fortune seekers travel to the region with their caravans in search of work and building a better future for themselves. So you're trying to be able to plant your caravan in those settlements, basically. Thematically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah. You just gotta spin the spinner, and get 2 workers based on what the colors are.
And you can either claim a settlement, or you can do like one of the things where you're earning more pumpkins, or you're getting one of the goods. So there's choices that you make in a turn.
And if you take the work action, actually this works really interestingly. So some of the tiles, not all, or the spaces in the worker placement board, don't necessarily have to match the workers. You can pay an additional worker to bypass it.
Yeah, so like if I'm trying to get the grain and I don't have the amount of workers, like if I don't have a grain worker, I can pay 2 of like stone workers to get the grain for me instead of just 1 grain worker.
Because they're not as good at it. They're not as good at the job.
But I thought that was a really cool mechanic, especially if things are starting to ramp up in the game and you really need to claim some settlements. So you really need these things. So I think it's a really cool, handy mechanic. I liked it.
I never used the like auction area.
I did though.
Because it just didn't seem as useful to me to do that stuff versus like just getting workers, putting them there, get your resources, use your resources to build your settlements, to expand your territory.
I liked being able to spend the pumpkins to trade resources for other stuff. And I actually did twice got the bigger resources so I could claim the settlements with the big, because that was the only way to get the big resources.
Yeah, but the way that I was building, the direction that I was going, I didn't need any of those.
But you blocked me from going that direction, so I had to go the other direction.
I did get in your way. You're correct.
You did. I really liked this game a lot. I like worker placements anyway, and it's not always fun to play worker placements against Jared because he's super good at them. But I find it fun anyway. I really, really like worker placements, and this was one that I enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah, if it just didn't have the spinner. I mean, I guess you could replace the spinner with a D8.
Yeah, in theory you could.
They could have done a custom D8.
Yeah, they could have. Would have been more expensive. But yeah, the spinner sucks. And I had to keep messing with the arrow so that it would spin right. That was my least favorite component of the game. But it did not change my enjoyment of the game itself.
No, the game itself was still fine. I don't think that I've ever played a game with a good spinner.
No, I don't think they exist.
I mean, like the 1960s version of Life. The spinner is awesome.
Oh, yeah,
but the game sucks.
But that was a cool spinner. But a spinner like that would be fairly expensive.
Yeah, I would think so.
You could probably 3D print something now.
Yeah, or you could just...
use the Life spinner. I don't know.
What you could do is get a D8, put numbers on the spinner...
and then just roll a D8.
And roll a D8.
You could do that. And then you wouldn't have to play with it. The spinner was crappy.
The spinner... was not good.
I feel like there's several times that we probably would have gotten the workers we were looking for if we weren't flicking a spinner that didn't spin very good.
Because the rule is like, for the spin to count, it has to go around at least once. But oftentimes you'd flick it and it would be like, oh...
I'm just going to move 2 spots. So.
It didn't... But yeah, actually, Jondi, that was another cool thing. You could spend resources to
move further around.
This would not work on the D8.
Correct.
Well, if you had the D8 with the reference.
It would just be like, spend this to move up or down by this much.
So you could spend resources to essentially move the spinner clockwise a little bit. So like if the thing that you needed was the next space over, you could upgrade to the thing that you actually need.
Yeah, and
Which is
that would
cool.
totally work. Like if you just have the spinner reference there and you number them, then you can still be like, well,
Yeah,
you'd
that would
spend this
work.
much more, and I'd get what I want. So I would highly suggest just putting numbers on your spinner if you get this game, and just use a D8 because the spinner sucks.
Well, I mean, the spinner that I have sucks. Maybe they fixed it
Most
since
spinners
then.
are crappy.
Yeah. I'm not gonna hold my breath.
No, like I don't think I've ever seen a good spinner, like ever, other than like you said in the Game of Life. But other than that, it's a great game, and I would say people should give it a try, especially if you like worker placements.
Okay, so now we're getting into an area here. How do you want to do this? Do you want to just talk about them and then
Let's
compare
just
and contrast?
mention the two games we're going to talk about, and
Okay.
then we can highlight each one.
Well-
We're going to talk about Western Legends, and we're also going to, and that's from Colossal Games. And we're also going to talk about Spurs, A Tale in the Old West from Mr. B Games. And the reason that we're kind of lumping this together is we feel like both games are very, very similar.
Now, I like one more than the other.
As do
but
I. We'll get to that.
We'll we'll deal with that.
So we'll start with Western Legends. That one has been pretty popular the last, like ever since it came out. I'm not sure where it is on the BGG hotness list. At one point it was on the hotness list. I don't know if it still is.
Its rank right now is about 350 overall.
is still
and
a
then
pretty
thematic,
good
it's in the
rank.
top 100.
Yeah. So it's
it's
a popular
pretty
game.
popular, yeah.
And a lot of people have been playing it, especially when it first came out. So, we definitely weren't going to do this theme without playing Western Legends.
Yeah.
So, let me pull up my Western Legends. So on Western Legends, it's kind of a game with a lot of little...
Pull up your notes.
Yeah, they call it an open world sandbox tabletop adventure.
Yeah.
And I think that's really
I think that's fair.
fair to say that. So basically,
Because you can just kind of go around however you want to and do
Yeah.
whatever thing you want to do.
yeah, you assume the roles of actual historical figures. So there's...
Sorry, I'm laughing because...
My husband, once we played the game with the historical figures in it, every Wild West game that we played after that, he was like, these are real people. So when we played another one today, he was like, I really like how these are real people in the game. So, yeah, that
I
became
think
a
when
thing.
he first said it, he was confusing them because
Yeah.
we had been playing so many of these.
Yeah.
But then after we were like, what are you talking about? He absolutely doubled down. He realized
He
but he
did.
doubled down on it and it was great.
Yeah. So in Western Legends, you play as like Annie Oakley. Who are some of the other ones?
Is Annie Oakley one of them? Yeah, she
Yeah,
was.
Annie Oakley was one of them. Here we go.
You found a list?
No,
Nope.
I thought I had.
Well, Jondi, dang.
Here we go.
That's
Like there's Annie Oakley, Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid.
I was just gonna make you try to name off famous Western.
Calamity Jane.
There you go.
So characters like that are who you play in Western Legends. So you assume a role of a historical figure, and you're trying to earn legendary status, either by gambling or driving cattle. You can mine for gold. You can go rob a bank. You can fight bandits. You either are on a martial track where you're a good guy, or you're on was it a wanted track, I think? Mm-hmm. And both of those score differently, which we discovered after we'd been doing it wrong. The wanted track, depending on which row you are in the track, because it starts with 1 and it moves up.
We weren't doing it wrong, but then you decided that we were doing it wrong, so we changed it.
Because I read something wrong. But so on the wanted track, at the end of each turn, you either, if you're in the first row, you would earn 1 legendary point. Second row it's 2. Third row it's 3. Or no, it's not 3. It goes up. I don't remember exactly.
I think that's right.
Might be 1, 2, and 3. If you're on the martial track, it starts with 1, and then I think it's 3, and then it's 6 or
Well, it's
something.
at the end of the
but
game,
you
though.
only get those at the end
Yeah.
of the game. So that's the difference there. And each time you move up on one of those tracks, you get something like money or a legendary point or
So I'm not sure that
something.
Jeremy still would have won,
Yeah.
but he would not have won
by
by
quite
so
as
much.
Yes. I really liked the game, and I liked the fact that you just kind of moved around on the board and did what you wanted. However, as we were playing, we all just were like, yeah, this is a lot like Spurs, which also does the same type of thing. It's a game. I would agree that another one's like an open world tabletop board game where it's a lot of little mini games
Yeah.
mixed into one game. You take on a role of either the gambler, the hunter. Actually, the gambler is an expansion.
Yes, it is.
So there's the hunter, there's the outlaw, there's a bandit, and so you take on the role of one of those. And your card about your role tells you how many bullets that you get to put in a bag, and they're different colored bullets. And when you fight like desperados or bandits, you can
Or other players.
rob other players. You determine whether or not you're successful by drawing bullets out of your bag. And like red bullets are a miss, and you get red bullets added as you like if you get injured.
Black bullets are a miss as well.
Black bullets are a miss, and then there's brown bullets and white bullets.
Silver.
And whatever.
Well, no, there's white and silver. The white one's an
That's right,
auto
that's
hit,
right.
and the silver is for a revolver.
For a revolver. So yeah, you have and if you at one point there was a Kickstarter where you could get wooden bullets instead of little chits, and both Jared and I have the wooden bullets, and I really like those a lot. So that you can do that. There's cattle wrestling where you can go into a ranch and there's like this little mini hex board that you put the cattle on and you roll dice to move the cattle around, and you're trying to corral the cattle all together. And after your rolls, you get money for however many cattle you managed to round up. So that's a mini game. You can go to town and you can buy stuff that improves your guns or can add to like how quickly you can move. There are different types of areas on the board, just like there would be if you're traveling around the wild, wild west. So there's like prairies, and there's badlands and mountains, and what was the other one? It was a forested area.
Yeah,
I don't
yes.
remember what they called it. But moving into some of those areas takes more movement, because if you're going to move from like the prairies into the woods, it's going to be, the woods are going to be a little bit more strenuous, especially if you're riding a horse. And it takes even more movement points to go up into the mountains, which makes a lot of sense. So there are challenge tokens. That's how it determines like what you're going to be doing and how many points you earn and how much money you earn. So like the challenge tokens are on the different spaces, and you're trying to get to those spaces to earn legendary points and earn money or wanted tokens or whatever. I think it's a really fun game, and it's quick. So the two games are very, very similar in how the mini game, like fighting bandits, fighting players, mining, all that kind of stuff. The two games are very similar, and I think Jared and I are in agreement. I personally like Spurs better. Both games are great, and I absolutely am not saying that Western Legends isn't a good game, because it is, and they do have aspects of the game that are not the same. Obviously, they're not the same game.
Right, like in Western Legends, almost everything is done through poker hands.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
I thought that was really cool. I liked that. So in that one, you've got poker cards in your hand, and you determine winners of the different things you're doing by
right, and
playing.
you've got a player board.
Yeah.
That has your inventory, has your horse, you have a maximum amount of money that you can handle.
Amount of items.
Your wallet can only hold so much.
So yeah, and when you are like,
I'm not saying that one of them is objectively better than the other.
And there are things that I like.
Because they do stuff differently.
Yeah. I think if somebody said, hey, which do you want to play right now? Do you want to play Spurs or Western Legends? I think every time I would probably say Spurs.
See, I would say Western Legends now, because I've played Spurs a lot.
I mean, that makes sense. I
don't feel like I've done everything in Western Legends.
Yeah, that's fair. I still like Spurs better. And I like the art in
Yes.
Spurs
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
The art in Spurs is just thematically authentic
Italian art.
Yes, like
spaghetti Western
Italian. It's beautiful. I love the art in Spurs, which is actually what originally drew Jared and I to the game. We were at Origins. I think it was the first year that we went to Origins
2014.
together. And we walked past Mr. B's booth and spotted the art for that game and immediately drew us into the booth. So I don't know if you can still get Spurs or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the Mr. B Games website doesn't exist because the actually there is some on Amazon. Are some on Amazon. So for $45 you can get it on Amazon. There are some on eBay as well.
Spurs is available from his website, but not through the link that's on Board Game Geek.
Correct.
So I don't know how many he has.
I recommend it though. I would say if you've played Western Legends and you want to play another game similar to it, but does deal with things differently, I say definitely give Spurs a try. I think the reason that Spurs didn't hit the same popularity as Western Legends is because it just didn't have the same company presence behind it.
Yeah, there wasn't as much hype.
Yeah, like Colossal Games did a great job at marketing Western Legends, but I think both games equally deserve attention and play.
The wooden bullets are definitely sold out.
Yeah, they're cool though. Love them. You know, if you know a woodworker, or you could probably 3D print bullets as well.
Oh yeah, you could absolutely do that. Yeah, they just have to be all the same, so you can't feel the difference.
Yeah. But I think it's a great game, and I love it. And it's a game that will stay in my collection forever. It's not one that I'll ever weed out.
Oh, Spurs? Yeah, no, Spurs.
I will never weed that. It will
great.
always be in my collection. So.
Yeah, it's. You know, you don't want to play it too much because you will not necessarily key on any strategies or anything like that, because you kind of can't because there's dice involved. But because the game is basically just a bunch of little mini games, which is not a bad thing, but just mechanically because it is, you might be like, every time I play this, I play as the hunter every time, so I just do the hunting game all the time. Or I play as the cowboy, so I just do the cowboy stuff all the time and do the cattle herding. Or I'm always the guy that does the mining. You'll get to a point where you're like, I don't know. Maybe these characters, I don't know. But then you can just do what I did when we just played recently. Pick a character and don't do his power. Don't do the thing that he's good at. Just
right, because you don't
completely
have to.
Ignore the strategy. Just do something stupid and still completely destroy everybody.
I think this time around I played I don't remember what I played now.
Well, I played the gambler, and all I did was fight bandits,
And
desperados, and did cattle herding. There's a lot of
I played the
points.
gunslinger, so I was just good at shooting stuff. Had I ever fought a desperado, I was supposed to get an extra $5 for every desperado card I defeated.
You were doing a lot of hunting.
Because there were stupid animal challenge tokens like everywhere on the side of the board I was going.
There was a bear and a coyote.
I should have played the stupid hunter.
Yeah, you should have.
I think that's pretty much the only thing I did was fight some bandits and lose twice. On both the times I tried to fight bandits. And
you can rob a bank?
Jared robbed a bank. No, Jeremy robbed a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy robbed a bank. I never was able to beat to capture any bandits. But I did kill a bear. I got a bear pelt and I got a coyote pelt.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take those to town and trade them in for money. So.
Yeah, you did that.
I did. And had I not bought stuff with that money, I probably, at the end of the game, there are three most tokens. There's one for whoever's the most wanted. There's one for whoever has the most money, and one for whoever has the most bullets in their bag. And I think had I not bought stuff when I was in town, I probably would have had more money, but I still wouldn't have won because it was only two additional points.
Yeah.
So the point spread this time was 12, and then Jeremy and I both had 6.
Because we played this. The standard game is to 10 points. The standard game is
to 10 points. Then there's an epic game to 15. No, the long game.
The long one's 15.
15.
Yeah.
Or they call it an epic game. But it's still a pretty quick game. Like, I think even if you're playing the 15, you're probably, even with a full amount of players, you're probably not going to go over an hour with this game.
Now, see, that contrasts with Western Legends where, yeah, I could see that game going.
So the difference there, I think, is in Spurs, there's really just not a lot of, you're not going to sit there and try to assess what you're going to do when. It's very much okay, here's my options. I can go this way or this way, and these are the challenge tokens. Because the challenge tokens are what determine what you're going to be able to do. As opposed to Western Legends, you can kind of move around fairly easily on that board.
Yeah, you have to go to towns.
You have to go to towns and stuff, but it's a lot easier, and I think there's a lot more potential for analysis paralysis in Western Legends. So the game is a little bit slower. There is a little bit more downtime in between your turns, but they kind of combat the downtime with the fact that if a player is going to rob a bank, or if they're fighting bandits or whatever, or if they're gambling, the other players, like the player to the right of them, will always play like the dealer, or they'll play the bandits. So it kind of takes away from the downtime by including the other players in that activity. If you're in the same town as somebody that's gambling, you can actually decide to gamble with them. So,
which is just playing 5-card poker.
Yeah. I mean, there's
actually almost everything in the game is resolved through playing
some
poker.
sort of poker. And I liked that. And I liked the fact that it did combat the downtime between turns that way. So both games definitely warrant playing. Both of them are worth having in your collection.
But they're different.
They're different. I just feel like they're very, very similar in their gameplay. And
in their components, because the miniatures also... So in Spurs, the miniatures have these little bases that snap onto them.
Yes.
You pick your colored ring, you snap your miniature on there. In Western Legends, the miniatures have little plastic rings that snap onto the bases.
The Western Legends ones are a little bigger than the Spurs ones, but other than that, they're just injection molded miniatures. But I like the fact that they have miniatures and not like chits or whatever you move around. I think that's cool. Both games have really nice components, except for Spurs has garbage money. The money is one-sided. It looks like photocopied onto glossy paper.
Yeah.
So the money is total garbage.
Jeremy spent most of the game trying to find Old West money.
Trying to find Old West money that we could buy for the game. Because every time I play the game, I'm like, oh, I should buy better money for this. And then I don't think about it again until I play the game again. Something I also found interesting was in the rulebook for Western Legends, they do thank Mr. B Games.
I think that's their way of saying, like, hey, sorry for stepping on your toes here.
Maybe. Or maybe Sean, Sean Brown from Mr. B Games. It's possible that he contributed to
I don't know.
Play testing or something. I don't know. But there was a thank you to them too. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Well, that was Western Legends from Colossal and Spurs from Mr. B Games.
Yep. And we still have yet another Wild West game to talk about.
Oh, and Jondi has a lot to say about this.
I do have a lot to say about this.
All right. Van Ryder Games. You may be familiar with them. We've talked about some of their other stuff. Hostage Negotiator.
Yes.
They put out a Wild West game a few years ago called Saloon Tycoon. If you've ever played like Rampage / Terror in Meeple City, or that AEG game about building pagodas called Pagoda.
Yeah.
You're going to be familiar with arguably the main concept of the game here, which is constructing your... Yeah. And the way you do that...
Well, in Terror in Meeple City, they come constructed, you're knocking them down.
Well,
but it's still putting chits on top of low cubes, and that's the main mechanic of the game. You're building your saloon. So
you buy these tiles. You start with one, but you buy tiles. You buy supply cubes.
They're supposed to be like walls.
But yeah, in the game they're called supply cubes. Functionally, they are pillars that support additional layers, because once you've completed a room, you can then put another one on top of it, which is pretty dang cool. However,
I like the game. Well, I enjoyed playing it. It's like tile placement. It's almost all like tile placement, and there's some card management. The BGG says card drafting, but it's not so much drafting.
Well, you don't choose to draft them, because if you're doing too well in the game, bad stuff happens to you and
Yes.
you're forced to take cards.
Yes. So like there are characters in the town, and they don't come to your saloon until you complete whatever room would attract them to your saloon. So like the widow won't come to your saloon unless you have the luxury guest room. Or there's a senator that only comes to your saloon if you have a brothel.
There's a school teacher that only comes if you have the schoolroom. There's, I'm just going to straight up call him an alcoholic, because he only comes to your saloon if you have a whiskey still.
Yeah.
But then there's bad guys. There's outlaws. So, like...
Yeah, there's like Sydney Smythe.
Yeah, the first person that gets a citizen through, like, normal means also gets Sydney Smythe, a bad guy. Or...
And the theme is like, if you got patrons, then you got potential buyers of my famous snake oil.
Or
He's a snake oil salesman.
you could have a lady that comes there because you built your saloon too much, because she goes where the party is.
Yeah, and it says never met a bottle she didn't like, so she's an alcoholic too.
Well, it is the Old West.
Yep.
And Jondi, you've never watched Deadwood,
Correct, I have not.
the recently aired TV movie that ends the series. Was real good.
So in this game, you are trying to you start the game with goals, like secret goals that you're trying to achieve that nobody else knows what they are, and then there are also like
There's some public
community
ones.
public
Yeah.
goals that you're also trying to achieve, and you get points for all those different things. Now, since none of us had played the game before, and we had to like you draw 4 and pick 2 at the beginning of the game, and I had never played the game before, so I was just like, oh, this one's a lot of points, and this one sounds like it would be easy to do. Had I played the game before, I might have chosen at least one of my cards I would have chosen differently.
Yeah, I would have picked something different.
But it's also really cool because you start watching what people are collecting, and then you try to like figure out, like, I was collecting male characters, and Jared and Jeremy were sure that it was because I had the brothel, so obviously I needed male characters. But really, it was only because I had the widow, whatever. The widow has nothing to do with the brothel. She's in your luxury suite. And I thematically, I think that the male characters are trying to, like, woo the widow. So I got an additional 2 points for any male character I had at the end of the game. Good guy, like, or citizen or outlaw, either one. So the different goals I think are kind of cool. I like that aspect of the game a lot.
And there's a lot. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, so it's not like you're going to go, well, there's only 8 of these, so I know which one you probably have.
So we only played with the components from the base game, but there is a ranch expansion. There's a Kickstarter expansion that's called like
a
Welcome to Boomtown or something like that. I don't know
there's
what
like
it
a
is.
scorpion farm that you can have.
Yeah,
in
there's
one of the
some
expansions.
weird stuff.
Yeah, and then they're cards that you just have in your hand, and they let you do various things. Like get more gold or get more actions in a turn. So, the game's pretty straightforward. I like it. It's quick play. It's pretty fun. There are a few glaring issues, at least as far as I'm concerned, that are
Jondi
almost deal breakers for me. They may be. I have to distance myself from it before I decide for sure. But right now, they feel like deal breakers to me.
This is not a fair statement to Jondi, but she kind of threw a fit a little bit. Because
a little bit, I did, and normally I love games that have player versus player stuff. I've been having some major back problems lately, and my back was really hurting that day, and it was stuffy in the room. So I think the two things mixed together made me get real grouchy. So I did get grouchy, and normally I really love Take That games. So
and I normally don't much care for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and usually I do. Like, usually I'm like, oh, you attacked me? Sweet, I'm going to attack you next turn. And I just got grouchy, so I apologize for that. But I still don't think my opinion has anything to do with that, because I liked the take-back aspect of the game, and I think it was well done. Because basically, there are ways to move characters around, and you can, like, oh, I have this character that takes things away from you, and I'm going to play this card, and now I'm going to give you this character. So it's not like super mean Take That, but it's definitely there. The glaring issues for me is the way the game ends.
Well, there's more to it than that. So here's the main rub. This was your fit was driven by the fact that you have these tycoon cards that you can play as an action, that do various things. So like it might be like, okay, you play this card and then you can do 2 actions, and one of those actions is build the saloon and then whatever. Some of the cards are take gold or move a character to another player. So on my turns, I was getting a lot of money because I started with some cards that let me get gold early in the game. So I got the negative point guys early in the game. And then I played a card to move the negative point guys off of myself. And Jondi was giving me crap about how I was doing so well in the game. So I was like, okay, let me move this guy to you that makes it hard for you to get money.
Yeah, yeah.
And that kind of set her off because she was like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? I can never get money. And Jeremy and I were both like, okay, Jondi, look at your hand. Look at the cards that you have. Can you, A, move the guy, B, play a card to get money? Well, she ended up being fine. She ended up having
I ended
a
up
nice
chaining.
recovery.
I did. But that really wasn't I got grouchy there, but, honestly, that was just stemmed from the fact that I was not feeling all that great.
Those cards are problematic because you can manipulate.
You can really change.
You can manipulate
cards.
your hand in such a way that you can.
I honestly think there should be a limit on how many cards you can play in a round or something like that. But I don't. That's not the game.
Well, there is.
breaking
It's supposed to
thing
be
for me.
one card, but if you play a card that lets you play 2 cards,
Yeah, I think there should be a limit on how many.
or you play a card that lets you build a thing, and then when you
Right.
build the thing, that lets you play a card, and you've played the card that lets you build more things,
yeah.
and that.
But honest, that still wasn't the deal breaker for me. The deal breaker came in how the game ends, and while it makes sense, so in the very last turn, you cannot move a character and you from one player to another. You can't steal a character, nor can you even attract a character that hasn't come into the town by building a room. So that part I think would be fine if they changed how an endgame works. But this game, if whoever triggers the endgame, then you just each player, I believe, other than that person gets one more turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that one more turn is almost pointless because you can't attract a new player to your town or a new character to your town. You can't move characters. It's very, very limited on what you can do.
Right. It's designed for you to finish up whatever building situation you have to get those extra points. Because if you finish a large tile, that's 7 points.
Right. But that's it. I honestly think that the way that the endgame trigger should work is you finish that round and then everybody gets one last turn. In which case, a player still gets their one last chance to move characters around or whatever. And then there's that last round that's very limiting to finish things. I honestly think that that's the way it should be done. And I'm not saying that because I'm all butthurt because I didn't get to do what I want to do. I'm just saying that I think that would be a better way of handling endgame.
See, I absolutely 100% disagree because if that were the rules, what would you guys have done that last turn? You would have spent all of your money using the bribe action to send those negative points to me.
Nope. I had a card that would have let me move a character from one to another, and that's all I wanted to do.
But where would you would have put that on me?
No, I would have put it on myself.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You wanted to get. I see what you're saying.
I still would have liked to have finished a building, and had I been able to, had we finished that round and then had one final turn, I would have been able to do that, and then I probably would have been able to build a one last building, or at least add one last room.
You were also building the wrong way. I mean, you weren't breaking any rules, but so I was building up. You were building out.
Well, and there was a reason I did it that way. Just for the fact that I had cards that allowed me to do certain things if I got rooms at a certain time, and at those times that I got those rooms, I didn't have the pillars to move up. So yeah, I could have handled building differently, but again, losing the game isn't my issue. I lose games almost 90% of the time we play, so I'm used to losing. To me, it's just I don't like the way the game ended, and that may be a deal breaker for me. I have to distance myself from the when we played it, and then maybe go back one last time and see how I feel the next time I play. But for me, that's right now a deal breaker. If you ask me tomorrow, hey, let's play Saloon Tycoon, I would say absolutely not. No.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that it's not a good game. It is. There's a lot of really fun aspects to it. It just might not be the game for me.
Well, so here's the trigger that ends the game is the last general supply cube is taken. Now, in a 3-player game, I think it's like 60 cubes or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And you can see when the supply is
Oh,
getting
yeah.
low.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't know the supply isn't low.
Yeah. So, I mean, you should not wait until the final round to finish any of the tiles or move citizens around.
Right.
But, you know, when you look at the cube supply and you're like, all right, there's 4 cubes left in there.
You don't know for sure that the player right before you is going to buy 4 cubes. In
Right,
return. But yeah,
but
can
you also
guess
know that there's not many turns left in the game.
That's true. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have warning. I'm just saying how it's handled just soured me. I'm not saying that there's not a reason for it. I'm not the game designer. They may have play tested it the way I liked it and it didn't work out well.
Well, Jondi, if you buy it, then you can
I could
house rule it.
I could. Although I'm not a big fan of house rules. They also make me grouchy. I get in role-playing games, I get real triggery when people want to house rule role-playing games, but that's a whole other subject.
The most that I will do for house ruling is if a officially licensed third-party company has put out a source book, I will allow that. And if you want to change something thematic about how power works, but not mechanically.
Right.
Like if you have magic missile and your character says, well, I want my magic missile to look like every time I use it, when I cast it, I want to, instead of casting it from an open palm, cast it from a fist. And it's a spectral fist that flies out of my... Sure, absolutely. That's awesome.
I don't like house rules that change...
Well, I have magic missile, and my character has a higher intelligence stat, so actually I get to roll a d8 instead of a d4.
Yeah.
No.
House rules that change mechanics, really, literally they'll trigger me. Like, they'll make me grouchy and...
House rules ruin Monopoly and Uno.
They make me get butthurt, I'll admit it. And if my fellow admins for the role-playing game that I run online are ever listening, they would be going, oh yeah, she totally gets mad.
Chris doesn't listen to this.
He has listened a couple times,
No.
but they would be like, yeah, she totally gets mad because we've gotten in many an argument over house rule stuff, and then I get outvoted.
I'm going to derail the podcast to talk about the same thing that you're talking about. You almost lost. Be careful, Jondi. So for years, I played with the same D&D group for years.
Yeah.
And occasionally we'd be like, okay, let's try to bring in a friend. Let's see if they're a good match, whatever. For years. So one time we had a guy come in who played as a magic using character and was a halfling and decided, okay, Tensor's floating disc. So the way that this spell works is have you watched Static Shock?
The old cartoon?
The cartoon based on
I remember
the
that.
DC characters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he wanted to use Tensor's floating disc as a thing that you can ride on, like a la Static Shock.
Mm-hmm.
Tensor's floating disc, the actual use of that spell is, crap, we just killed this dragon. Let's cut off its head. I can't carry it. You can't carry it. Let's just put it on the Tensor's floating disc, and it'll carry itself.
Okay.
And it stays 10 feet behind you, and that's all it's for. There was like a 3-hour long argument about whether or not you could ride on Tensor's floating disc. Spoilers, guys, you cannot. It stays 10 feet behind you. It follows you because it's a wheelbarrow. It's a magic wheelbarrow.
Magic wheelbarrow, yeah.
But there was this just huge back and forth of like, okay, well, it occupies a 5-foot area. So we can put 2 halflings on it and just ride across the trapped floor. You could, if one of those 2 halflings is not also the spellcaster, because again, it's 10 feet behind you. So yeah, Jondi, I know your pain. Well, not your back pain that you're experiencing that almost made you break everything, but...
Yeah, it triggers me, I'll admit it.
Well, anyway, Saloon Tycoon, Van Ryder Games.
Yeah.
I loved it. Jondi hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. Oh my God. I totally didn't play. In fact, until I got upset at, literally, like not when I got grouchy, but at the end of the game, that's the only thing that really was a deal breaker for me. The rest of the game, I thought was a really solid, fun game to play. So, Jared, is there any Kickstarters that you wanted to talk about this week?
Yeah, sorry, hang on. My watch just told me that all the reminders on my phone are deleted. Um, I don't know what happened. It's fine. Yes. Hello, Kickstarters. Hello, everyone. So we talked about Colossal Games
We did.
earlier. Well, if you like Colossal Games, then you'll love Colossal Games' new game.
Yeah, so they have a Kickstarter up right now. It's actually a relaunch of a Kickstarter that had some issues, so Kickstarter itself suspended it. But it's back on.
It's a butterfly game.
Yeah, it's called Papillon. And it is. I've seen them demoing it at a couple of conventions, so I've seen it on the table, and this game has amazing table presence.
Yeah, it has 3D flowers.
And you actually like put the butterflies on the
it.
flowers, and this game has a lot of table presence. I really, really think that this could be a fun game. Obviously, I haven't played it, but if I end up having the budget for it, I'm definitely gonna jump in on this one.
So how does this game work, Jondi?
Well,
Tell me about the bidding phase, the drafting phase, the gardening phase, and the butterfly phase.
Well, it's a tile drafting game. And my computer or my iPad is not loading the rest of it up, so why don't you do that?
Okay, yeah, honestly the board's real small, but the majority of what you're going to be doing is on the butterflies anyway. So yeah, there's some tiles go out and you bid on the tiles. You draft the tiles to build a garden, and then the butterflies that you have are attracted to the type of the flowers that you've drafted and built. It's like in Carcassonne, where when you're building a farm, when you're building the fields, they have to be connected to each other, and the towns have to be connected to each other, except instead of those things, instead of those features, it's flowers. So you get butterflies based on the garden that you've completed with the tiles, based on how many of the flowers are connecting to other flowers. Long story short, what you want to do is collect a whole bunch of flowers so that you can put your butterflies on the 3D flowers.
Yep.
How was that, Jondi?
So I haven't played the game, but I think that this is a game that probably has a lot of strategy to it, but I don't think it sounds like it's a game that's going to be hard to learn.
No.
So it's going to be a really accessible strategy game.
So the base game comes with a bunch of butterflies that you clip onto the flowers, a bunch of tiles, the little game board that's honestly just for the auction phase, and a bunch of tokens. There's garden gnomes and caterpillars, and then there's some meeples. However, don't buy that. Buy the deluxe version that comes with 50 caterpillar meeples.
And wooden garden gnome meeples. Oh, no,
Yep.
with a sticker sheet, so they're not
Well, they're not screen printed, no.
But still, they're garden gnomes!
Yeah, so stretch goal wise, it's new cards and then like a bag.
A screen printed bag, yeah.
Yeah.
So they aren't like stretch goals. We're going to be like, oh, and those stretch goals actually will go into the retail version of the game as well as the limited edition or whatever. So it's not like you're trying to reach stretch goals that'll only go in the Kickstarter edition or something like that.
So my understanding was that the butterfly capsules, as they're calling them, the little storage trays for the butterflies, I understood those to be exclusive, along with the collector's edition box.
Right.
But that may be incorrect.
It looks like if you look at what you get with the garden pledge level, you get. It looks like there's an expansion that you also get, Beyond the Meadow.
Yes, I think that one is.
Because that's included.
That will be available in retail for sure.
Yeah, because this has in the garden pledge level for $39, you get Papillon, and you also get Papillon Beyond the Meadow, and you get the butterfly clips, and you get the little butterflies. You get stand-up flowers, 94 flower tiles, a game board, 66 tokens, 50 caterpillar tokens.
Oh yeah, that's part of the 66 tokens is the gnomes plus the
Yeah.
caterpillars plus the
So
bonus.
you get a stretch goal upgrade would be if they reach the stretch goal is going to be 4 gardener meeples with a sticker sheet, and then the other stretch goal that they haven't reached yet is a screen printed cloth tile bag. And all of that is included. The things that are different between the $39 pledge level or the $55 pledge level is those caterpillar meeples and
Yeah.
the garden gnome meeples. I don't see, because then the other one just says includes everything in
yeah,
the
I guess
garden
so.
pledge, all unlocked beyond.
Yeah, but I'm getting those caterpillars.
Oh yeah, if I have the budget to back this, yeah, I'm gonna back. But we've already said a million times when we're talking about Kickstarters that if there's only like a $15 or $20 difference,
Yeah.
if you've got the money, always go for the limited edition or Kickstarter edition of the game.
Unless you live in Brazil, and then the shipping is $60.
Yeah, but you're
So
probably
don't
used
live
to
in
that
Brazil.
if you live in Brazil. So.
Yikes.
But anyway, so that's the Wiki Wild Wild West.
Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want not none of this. Six gun in this, brother running this, Buffalo Soldier. And it's like I told you.
So
Any damsel that's in distress should be out of that dress.
Yep.
With some
So
Jim
Jared,
West.
until next
Huh?
time.
What's that?
Until next time.
Until next time, Johnny, you can eat chit and dice. Eat Chit and Dice is an independent production of Swin Media and is distributed under a Creative Commons license. Attribution, non-commercial, share alike 4.0 international.